Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Boy, all sorts of activity into the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible as tomorrow's game Canucks game against Ottawa at Rogers Arena has been postponed. Again, from what we know, Abbotsford is playing tonight in Abbotsford against Bakersfield. The Warriors game at Rogers Arena against Colorado, they are still on. Today's guests, including Thomas Drance, standing by, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Might want to do that tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
Langley Chrysler will pick up, service, and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action. Don't mean to be a smartass there. Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. A lot of people upset about the fact there's no game tomorrow at Rogers Arena. From The Athletic, Thomas Drance joins us now. How are you, sir?
Gentlemen, Happy New Year. I'm doing well.
Before we get to the Canucks, you've got new bosses. Have I got that right?
Apparently, Thomas Drance from the New York Times. We're
Yeah,
going to have to
there you
change
go.
my lower third.
Yeah.
But even better than that, like Thomas Drance from the New York Times sounds good, but you know what sounds better? Rick Dollywall of the New York Times. How
Dolly.
about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Dolly and the Times.
I'm just looking forward to the half a bottle of Crown Deep tweet where he tweets NYT and with T being tweeted 8 times in a row.
Do we have to call it Dolly and Donnie now?
And that tweet at midnight, Thomas.
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, Thomas, a statement is coming out from Jim Rutherford soon, we understand, regarding the Canucks and Ottawa game being postponed Saturday. What do you know in terms of the reason why?
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that he needs to wait on the league to officially postpone the game, right? These tend to be league releases that go first, and then I'm sure we will hear from Jim Rutherford, who's been very proactive in discussing and explaining these sorts of processes to us since he came on board, a very eventful month and 3 days ago. So, I would expect that to be the case today. In terms of what I'm hearing about the reasoning and how it will be framed today, I do expect that we'll hear more about this being a collaborative process, right? That the team itself was in contact with provincial health authorities, that obviously there's a ton of stakeholders sort of involved here. There's commercial priorities, there's public health priorities, there's NHL schedule priorities. But I do think that ultimately it was felt that having an event at the size and scale of a Canucks game, and remember, a Canucks game with 50% attendance is a very different beast in terms of crowd size than a Abbotsford Canucks game with 50% attendance or a Vancouver Warriors game with 50% attendance. Yeah. I think that proved decisive. And so, I don't know that I'm surprised. Like internally, for sure, over the course of this week, there was concern that this game wouldn't be played. But originally, at least, that concern was based on the amount of positives coming out of the Ottawa Senators camp, right? But nonetheless, as I was sort of thinking through that and talking to people about it and asking around about it, the sort of thing that I couldn't overcome myself in trying to understand how this would happen is in this province, especially, right, where the plug was pulled at the 11th hour on hosting the bubble in July of 2020, right? And then in December of 2020 into January of 2021, like the BC government was the last of the Canadian NHL teams to sign off on the bubble protocols as they applied to last season, right? And now all of a sudden in a world where Ontario can't play in front of fans, like teams in Ontario can't play in front of fans, and following a week in which school was canceled, in this jurisdiction, we were going to have 10,000 fans at a hockey game. I could never really square that. I always thought that was unlikely, and that's proven to be the case as the game appears on the verge of being officially postponed.
Thomas, you're right, and we stand corrected here that I'm looking at the Canucks website. Nothing is official yet, but all the speculation is there, and we're going to find out more.
Well, it's not speculation. The game will be postponed. It's just It's not official yet.
Not official. So in a way, we stand corrected. Would it be in the Canucks' best interest, given what's happening with the hockey club on the ice, if this is possible, to play that game in front of 0 fans Saturday?
It's one of those things. You look at it, right, and you have to think about this in so many different ways because, again, there are these competing priorities at stake and at play. From a schedule perspective, the Canucks will now have played 3 games in 10 days, and then they'll proceed to play 12 and 22, including a run of 5 and 7 against a who's who of the elite teams in hockey, right? Mm-hmm. You certainly would have preferred to have this game in as something of a tune-up even, right? Like as something of a tune-up before you have to go to Florida. I mean, we've seen what Calgary has done to opponents all season long and what just happened to them in Florida, right? They were humbled. I mean, truly humbled by the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champs and the Florida Panthers meat grinder. So certainly it would have benefited the club to get this game in. I think you also have to look at this sort of like Carl Mordo from Doctor Strange, right? His big line is the bill comes due. And I like to use that line when it comes to scheduling because the Canucks are now at a point where they'll have 7 games postponed that will need to be slotted into that sort of February winter break period between the 5th and the 26th. And this is true for all the Canadian teams, really. Like if you look at Vancouver, there's 7. If you look at Edmonton, I think it's 8. Calgary, it's 10. And that's in stark contrast with some of those other teams that are in the playoff race, particularly the California teams, where, Anaheim's had 4 postponed and the San Jose Sharks and the LA Kings have had 3 postponed. So who's going to be the fresher team down the stretch as these teams are, clawing over each other to try and make the playoffs, right? It's not going to be Vancouver. So that does put them a little bit behind the 8 ball there too. On the other hand, and I think it's important to note this, like we've just come through 2 years in which the number of home dates at which the club was able to generate gate revenue, like numbers in the 20s over a 2-year stretch. When you think about NHL payrolls, when you think about the fact that the Canucks just made and hired pretty significant names to run their hockey operations department and their head coach, obviously. When you also think about, too, where this club's at in terms of their expenditures and what they need to do over the long haul to make this a contending team, right? Like you can't overlook the fact that this is a business and business considerations matter, and being able to carry yourself like a contending team, right, in terms of how you spend matters a ton too, whether or not you're going for it or deciding to do a bit of a reset and take a longer view toward improving over the course of Jim Rutherford's 3-year deal. So, I don't think you can ignore that side of it as being crucial, especially coming out of, a challenging financial moment in which the club, significantly reduced payroll in the 2021 season and staff size. That had a major impact on this club's performance and being protective of it, a business being protective of their ability to generate revenue. I don't think it needs to be seen as in complete contrast or at the expense of what's best for the hockey club's on ice performance. Like they're one and the same.
Thomas, let's go over to the GM search. Patrick Alvin's a name we've heard. Ryan Bonus. You and I talked last night, another Pittsburgh name that you came up with last night. Derek Clancy's here. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins front office is moving to Vancouver, and the only people left in Pittsburgh are going to be Brian Burke and Hextall. That's it. Give us an update. That's the way it's going.
And Dave Pryor. Yeah, no, I know.
All he does, Rutherford, is talk to Pittsburgh Penguins staff. Your comments, what's going to happen with the GM search and future more Penguins on the way to Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think that's sort of what we expect in hockey, right, is that people bring in people that they trust. Yeah. And in Rutherford's case and in the case of the Pittsburgh Penguins, I mean, at least you're talking about an organization and a hockey, sort of system, like a institution within this sport that's had enormous success, right? Not just winning Stanley Cups with Crosby and Malkin on the roster, but also, identifying pretty consistently the Zach Ashton Reeses of the world and the Evan Rodriguez's of the world. Yep. A guy who at about midseason is like a big dark horse on my probable Selke ballot, right? I mean, these guys come out of nowhere. The Mark Donks of the world, as it were. And so it's pretty impressive what that organization has managed to do. There's clearly a ton of good people there. I'm not shocked to see names like, Bonus and Alvin and obviously Derek Clancy. Like, I'm not surprised to see those are the types of people that Rutherford is considering building this front office around, considering the success of Pittsburgh's player development apparatus. Scott Young's another guy who not just the Canucks, but within the entire industry is looked at as a rising star potential executive. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. And one would expect that something's got to kind of begin to move in the next couple of weeks. Certainly we understand with the holidays, with how new Rutherford is to the position, with all of the COVID complications impacting the entire league, that things have not been slow, but, that he's been deliberate, that he's taken some time, that he's still having conversations. But I certainly would expect this month things to pick up and the Canucks to begin to fill out that front office.
Very quickly, Thomas, 30 seconds. This will be the last time we talk to you before the Canucks hopefully play in Florida against the Panthers. You used to work for the Panthers. So we just want to get your thoughts on a Panthers team. I know they lost last night in overtime to Dallas, but they are second place in the overall standings right now.
No, and they're amazing. I mean, I don't know if you watched that Dallas Stars game, but I watch me a lot of Panthers, obviously. Got a lot of friends on that team, got a lot of friends in that organization, and they're scintillating. Like, they're just so fun to watch. They're incredible offensively, just absolutely lethal. They remind me a little bit of last year's Tampa Bay Lightning, in where I look up and down that lineup and think, oh, there's like 7 guys or 8 guys on that team that would be first line forwards for most teams in this league, right? Their fourth line is basically a third line. They've got all these guys at sort of the bottom end of their roster who don't even play a major role, who I think could be 35, 40-point guys if given that opportunity, right? I think about a guy like a Maxim Mammon as an example. We'll see him next week, but he's a 6'3" Russian forward who skates fast, can hit and fight. Like, he's terrifying. He's in most teams' top 9s. When he's played with Barkov, he's been productive, and it's just up and down the roster. Their depth is almost embarrassing, right? Like, it's embarrassing. And as a result, they have the ability to embarrass a lot of teams. Here's the most impressive thing about the Panthers, though, right? The Panthers have roughly the same quality of goaltending at 5-on-5 since December 1st as the Edmonton Oilers. They're 4th lowest in the league in terms of their save percentage, 5-on-5, since December 1st. Have you noticed? You haven't, because they've won every game 5-6-5 or 4-5-4. Yeah. They can outcompete. They're so good that they don't even need puck luck. They don't even need bounces. They barely need saves. They can just willfully outman almost every opponent they face on a night-to-night basis. Terrifying. And one last thing, with Lomberg and Radko Gudas on that roster too, like, there's a lot of sandpaper there, right? Everyone talks about the offense, and they should, but don't ignore the fact that, like, come playoff time, when they're facing Tampa Bay, when they're facing Toronto, when they're facing almost any team that doesn't employ Tom Wilson in the East, like, they're also going to be the tougher team. That's a scary combination down there.
Thomas, did you ever work on the Dave Letterman show?
Yeah, I believe I played the piano a little bit, the keyboards.
Yeah,
there you go. There we go.
Somebody found a picture of you, working for Letterman. There you are.
Yeah.
A good Canadian, Paul Schaefer.
Absolutely, Paul Schaefer, the best. I was a big Letterman guy growing up.
We all were.
Yeah.
Love it.
The best.
Thomas, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Be well.